All right, welcome back. Here we are, another year. Dalton Brown of Bicoastal Baseball Podcast here on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. It is great to have you here after a long offseason, Dalton. Baseball's finally back. Back-to-back champions. Obviously, for you, you're donning my Yankee hat tonight. It's good to be back, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's I don't remember what I'd mentioned maybe at the end of the show last year, but my wife and I have a baby coming in June. There's just a lot to be excited for in my life right now in general, and baseball season is right near the top of the list of things to be excited for as well. So, spring training's in full swing. Unfortunately, the Dodgers did lose today, so they are not going to go undefeated in spring as it looked like they might. But yeah, man, I'm so excited to be back.
Yeah, so expectations are obviously lower now for the Dodgers since they've suffered a crucial loss here in spring training. That's unfortunate.
I really wanted them to be undefeated when we went live for this show, just because it would be so funny if they're sitting
The narrative. Yeah, would be hysterical. It's too funny. All right, plenty of stuff to go over today. By the way, so let me throw this out to you. So you live in Minnesota now. Will your child or children, I should imagine, will they be raised as Minnesota Twins fans, or will they take dad's Dodger fandom also?
Yeah, she will be a Dodger fan. There's no question. I mean, look, we like the Minnesota teams. If they're not playing the LA teams, we'll root for them. The games are fun to go to, but no, she's gonna be a Dodger fan. Zero doubt.
There you go. Yep, 100%. It doesn't matter where I go. My family will be Yankee fans through and through, no matter what. Listen, we got plenty of stuff to go over today, man. I mean, look, we haven't spoken since about the middle of the offseason. We made a bunch of predictions about where free agents were going to go. Both of us did remarkably terribly in predicting how those guys are going to end up. But who's, what else is new? That's about as what you can expect.
That's the way that goes.
Right, exactly. We're throwing darts over here. But we've got division previews, and we do this every single year, and it's always, I think, some of our, more fun shows. I truly believe. I think these division previews are great. We'll start in the Eastern divisions. Past couple of years, we've started out West. Dalton, I texted you a couple of weeks ago of how we were going to plan on doing this. And I said, do you want to start out West again? You're just like, no, I want to start out East. I think there's more going on in the East. So let's start out in the East. So we'll go in the American League East, obviously, because, what else do you expect from me? And unfortunately, I didn't have graphics made up for the standing projections for this coming year. But right now, obviously, we're going to start here with the New York Yankees. Okay. This is an offseason, I think, that a lot of fans had higher hopes for. And I don't even know what they were expecting in the sense of guys that they would sign or trade for, but they expected something more, as Yankee fans always do. This was a very quiet offseason for them, right? Outside of bringing back Cody Bellinger, they made that trade for Ryan Weathers. Outside of that, it was really just bringing back their own guys, right? Paul Goldschmidt is back. Listen, Brian Cashman was notably saying that they did a lot of their offseason shopping during the trade deadline last year. So, Dalton, let me ask you this. A lot of Yankee fans want to presume, obviously, because the Blue Jays had lost some pieces as well. Where are the Yankees positioned as of now? What is their outlook for this season? Do you anticipate that they'll potentially take a step back from where they were last year?
Not necessarily. I think expectations remain high and should remain high. A lot of it is going to come down to, and you're going to hear this from me on just about everything, just about every team we talk to. A lot of this just comes down to your pitching health, right? And you and I both know that end of March and April, spring training, these next 2 months are when the vast majority of these pitching injuries are going to happen. It's just the way it goes every year. And so, I think it's going to be a matter of how healthy does the rotation stay, right? Can Rodon and Cole come off the IL and be effective? Can Clark Schmidt stay healthy? Right? Can Max Fried stay healthy? And then from there, it's really what are you going to get around Aaron Judge? Like, I think it's, look, Trent Grisham had a career year. It's fair to question whether that's repeatable.
Right.
The Yankees fans hope that it is, right? Bringing back Cody Bellinger, I think, was a big deal. I think that's a really good thing for them.
Huge deal. Yeah.
Ben Rice is a really big name to watch for me with the Yankees. Mm-hmm. When I was preparing for this show, what I did for each team is I put together, basically, I've got about a 6-page document on which I built out for each team where I think their ceiling is, their floor, a player I'm excited about, and gave them a grade for the offseason. Mm-hmm. And the Yankees, both the ceiling and the floor are pretty high. Like, I put the ceiling at 100-plus wins and a World Series championship. I've got the floor at around 85 wins, which could bottom you out to fourth in the American League East if that division is really strong. But I don't think there's any way that this is a bad team. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I think now listen, I share in the sentiment of a lot of Yankee fans of just like wanting more, right? Like I get it. Yeah. I'm not going to be the one that always says, that I'm not going to be the one that defends Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman and all these, like, I'm not going to be the one that always comes to their defense, but I'm also not a Looney Tune of saying, oh, well, we should go and sign everybody. That's just not how the business works. Here's what I will say, though. If the Yankees can put together this team and they can put together the stretch that they had going into the playoffs last year where the bullpen was blowing less games, they were still one of the top offenses in the sport, I actually think that there's potential for this team overall to be better than it was last year. And I see the vision that the Yankee front office has in that. Now, I think a lot of the questions you raise make a whole lot of sense, right? Trent Grisham had a very good year last year. They seem to think that they unlocked something with him. Whether that's true or not is going to remain to be seen. I like what Trent Grisham is. Even if he isn't what he was last year, I like what he provides, right? He's a terrific defensive center fielder. I don't care what the metrics say. I think he's a terrific defensive center fielder. And he adds some lefty pop in a right field short porch stadium. I think that provides some value. So there is something about that. I think as long as David Bednar holds his end of the bargain as their closer, right? If that back end of the bullpen, which if you look at it compared to what it was last year, I don't think that the excitement or the promise that a lot of Yankee fans had last year matches up to what it is now, right? Because now you're looking at David Bednar and Camilo Doval, who have both had ups and downs in their careers, right? Fernando Cruz is 35, 36 years old. What are we going to get out of him? I think a lot of people like him, but then you're looking at, guys like Tim Hill and, some of these other project players, Jake Bird and Brent Hedrick. And it's a lot of these unknown pieces. So, I mean, listen, I think the Yankees have a good chance right now as any team in the American League to win the pennant. That's what I think. I really think that they're about as good as any other American League team toe-to-toe as the way that I see it right now. I know that Yankee fans want more, but just look. I mean, I'll pull the lineup up again. If this lineup, and I'm not a fan of either Anthony Volpe or Jose Caballero playing shortstop every day, but if everybody in this lineup can simply play to the back of their baseball card, I still think this is going to be a top 2-3 offense in the sport. Dalton, I don't know that I'm buying that the Yankees are all of a sudden going to regress behind the Blue Jays or the Orioles or the Red Sox in this division. I just don't know that I buy that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm on the fence as to who I would make the favorite in this division. I do think there's a case to be made for the Blue Jays.
Certainly.
But the Blue Jays don't have a better roster than this. And, a lot of this for the Yankees too is going to come down to, can you get some offensive production from young homegrown talent, right? Can Austin Wells be just decent?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Can he be decent enough? Can Ben Rice kind of validate what we saw last year. That's going to be a really big deal.
Right.
You know, can Oswaldo Cabrera do something for you? Can Anthony Volpe do something for you? When do we see Spencer Jones? Right. I mean, in my write-up that I did, the player that I'm excited about would be Spencer Jones, 25 years old, 6'7", left-handed power hitter. He's drawing swing comparisons to Shohei Ohtani in spring training. And I mean, I see it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the best case scenario for the Yankees, like he's 25. At some point, you got to give him a shot, right?
Yeah.
And
you'll
if you're
see it this year, you will.
Yeah, and so you know, if he comes up and he hits, and you've got a duo of Yetis, right, with him and Judge on opposite sides of the plate, and Bellinger and Chisholm and Grisham, and like this lineup has potential to be really deep and score a lot of runs.
Yeah.
It is an aging pitching staff, both in the rotation and in the bullpen. But if everything breaks right for the Yankees, there's no reason they can't win a title. Like there's no reason they can't.
Yeah.
But and this is the case with every team, but I do think in some ways it's even more the case with the Yankees. They don't. There's a little bit of concern for me of like the way I look at it with a lot of these teams. If Aaron Judge, for example, has to miss 2 months with an injury, like, is there enough there that you can tread water during that time? My instinct right now says yes, but like that's part of, to me, how I have to evaluate a team like that. If you lose that linchpin, are you still able to not necessarily be great, but can you tread water?
Right. Yeah, I think that's a big part of what Yankee fans want to feel secure in. Also, is like, God forbid Judge does get hurt, because Judge is not a young gun anymore. Right. Like Judge is getting up there in age 2. Judge, I think, is going into his age 34 season or something like that. And not saying that he's going to show signs of regression, but you know, the body gets brittle in old age. So, you know, we'll see if it holds up. Hopefully it does. On the Spencer Jones note, and then we'll move on. Spencer Jones right now, he's hit 4 home runs in spring training already. And he has a 0 BABIP right now. He is 0 for 1 in batting average and balls in play. I think in 10 plate appearances, he's 0 for 1 in BABIP. I just found that to be incredibly, and that's what Spencer Jones is. And it was a lot of the concern that people had about Aaron Judge when he was coming up too, was that he's going to hit the ball a ton, but he's going to strike out 45% of the time. And I was having this argument with somebody earlier, but Spencer Jones last year in the minors had like a 1,200 OPS. Like he was raking in the minors last year, but he still struck out like more than 40% of the time. So what's the give and take there with strikeouts and OPS? Like that's really the big question when it comes to him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and to answer the question as best I can with him, like to me, when the offensive ceiling is that high, you have to find out. Like you have to get him up into the bigs and find out. If he strikes out a ton, so be it. But like I need to see him in pinstripes immediately.
So let's say somebody strikes out. Let's exaggerate it a little bit. Let's say somebody strikes out between 45 and 50% of the time. Okay. And that's a large number. Okay. Do you live with that if they hit 40 bombs?
Yeah. I mean, if they hit 40 bombs is he walking? Like, you know, if he's hitting bombs.
Let's say he walks an average amount.
Yeah. I mean, if he hits 40 bombs, walks an average amount, strikes out 45, 50% of the time. Like, I don't care how many of your outs are strikeouts, right? Like now if he's batting 100, like, and like the only hits he gets are the home, you know, that's a concern. But like some of what you're describing is like what the Dodgers see with Max Muncy, right? Like hits for power, strikes out a little bit more than you'd like, but he draws a lot of walks. Like if he can go up there, and if he's just a 3 true outcomes guy, like there's a place for that hitter in the game. But it can be precarious. Like you can turn into late stage Joey Gallo quick, and that's obviously the outcome you want to avoid.
That's brutal. One last thing, what grade would you give the Yankee offseason?
Yeah, let me pull up my document here. So I gave the Yankees offseason a C.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think that's about right.
Yeah, and the way I wrote it up, I said, look, they're basically running it back, right?
Yeah.
And this is a team that overall had a successful season last year. They finished the season well, which I think is worth noting. I do think it's fair to ask if that's good enough, though. Like, this is a division where they're surrounded by teams that are on an upswing, with the exception maybe of Tampa. Like Toronto, Boston, and Baltimore. Like Toronto, I think, is a team that maybe they don't win close to 100 games again, but like they're going to be a contender this year.
Mhm.
We'll get to Boston. I think they're good. And Baltimore, I have to assume, is not going to bottom out again. So everybody's getting better around you, and you didn't necessarily get better. Now, flip side of that, and this is the argument I think that their brass would make, is, well, we made improvements to the team at the deadline last year. We're getting Garrett Cole back off the IL. There are reinforcements coming. That in and of itself is something. Sure, but we'll see.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think that's exactly the mindset that they have. Let's talk about those Toronto Blue Jays. They certainly had a busy offseason, right? However, their busy offseason, unlike some, predicted, did not result in Kyle Tucker, and it didn't result in bringing back Bo Bichette. So this is the lineup they're running out of here now. So the only addition to this lineup is Kazuma Akamoto, who I know a lot of people like, but is still an unknown after coming over from Japan. Their two other bigger signings really came in the rotation, right? Dylan Cease and Cody Ponce, really the only guys that, are showing to be the major additions in this Blue Jay lineup. I think, listen, if you were to ask me, and the Blue Jays had a hell of a season last year, I think the Blue Jays overachieved. I did not think that the Blue Jays were as good actually as they played last year. I think the Blue Jays are due for regression. Now, again, I don't think that they're going to be bad. I do think that they could still win 90 games, but I do not see the Blue Jays as a team that is going to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers again. I just don't feel that way about this team right here. Am I wrong? What do you think?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that you're wrong. I mean, the way, like I mentioned, right? I did ceiling, floor, player I'm excited about, offseason grade. Their ceiling is similar to the Yankees, right? I mean, if they, because what made the Blue Jays great last season and great last postseason is that they found a clear identity offensively, right? They were a team that was going to put the ball in play. They were going to make at-bats that you were dealing with them really painful to get through, right? They just made themselves a really annoying lineup to work through night in and night out.
Right.
And they found somebody who pitched like an ace in the playoffs in Trey Savage. Now, if Addison Barger's breakout sticks, if Ernie Clement continues to hit for contact at this rate, if Alejandro Kirk continues to be this frustrating for opposing pitchers to deal with, and Kazuma Okamoto is what we think he might be, then this is a pretty deep lineup, right? And like, I think there are a lot of believers in Jesus Sanchez. He's got light tower power. If he can be bat to ball a little bit more consistently, that might be a really good add for them too. That's a great arm in the outfield, certainly. So I think, like, I'll put it this way. I think the best case scenario for them is that things look a lot like they did last year. Yeah. And if that happens, they too, to me, have a ceiling of 100 wins and winning a World Series. That's there for them. Now, I want to address their floor, though, too, right? Because I said the Yankees' floor was 85 wins. I think Toronto's floor is more like 75 to 80 wins and finishing maybe fourth or fifth in the AL East. It's worth remembering, like you said, where expectations were entering last season. Like, I'm not sure that all those guys I mentioned are going to validate what we saw last year. They might not, right? How much does losing Bo Bichette from that lineup, how much does losing that protection hurt Vladimir Guerrero Jr., right? Like, right. How much does continuing to miss Anthony Santander hurt them? Like, if the guys who had their best seasons of their careers last year regress, this lineup starts to look pretty ordinary in a hurry, right? Even on the pitching side, this is still a really right-handed rotation. Like
it is, and I don't know that they have a true ace, Dalton. Like, I just don't know that this road. I mean, I'll pull it up again. Like, they spent $210 million on Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease 2 years ago had an ERA of 4.5. Like, this is like they spent all that money for a guy that could end up being a number 3 starter at best for them.
Yeah.
That's how I saw that.
I think you look at that top 3, right? The best case scenario on Kevin Gausman, Dylan Cease, and Trey Savage is awesome, right? The best case scenario with all 3 of those guys is great.
Sure.
But like, can Trey Savage throw enough strikes? I don't know. Like, he did in the postseason last year, but like, that's been a concern for him at every level in the minors, is can he throw enough strikes? Like, can Kevin Gausman at, what is he, 35, right? Can he stay healthy enough?
He's getting up there now, yeah.
You know, Dylan Cease, especially in the postseason, Dylan Cease can get lit up at times. So I think it's fair to question that. And like, again, this bullpen with Jeff Hoffman at the back end, like, it kind of did them in against the Dodgers last year. Like, that's kind of part of why they lost, is like they couldn't hold a lead late in Game 7, right? So I think there is a world that's not that hard to imagine where they look more like the 2024 Blue Jays than the 2025 Blue Jays.
Yeah. So I'm looking it up now. The Blue Jays right now, according to Fangraphs, and Fangraphs lowballs a lot of records, right? They're projecting the Blue Jays at 86 and 76, tied with the Red Sox for second in the division. The Yankees at 87 and 75, winning the division. Now, again, I fully anticipate that those numbers are going to be higher, but I think all the points you make are true. I think that this is a rotation that can bottom out very, very quickly. You know, I think it could look very mediocre. It really can. So listen, I think the Blue Jays are due for a step back a little bit. I really do. Now, again, they could go from, you know, they won 94 games last year. Could they go back to 90 or 89? I think that's about right. I don't think they're going to play like the toenail on Isaiah Kiner-Falefa's foot away from winning the World Series. I don't think that they're that close anymore. Like, I don't know that this team got better despite the active offseason they had.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 2 questions that I think it hinges on for the Blue Jays. One of them is, like, is what they discovered last season like an actual repeatable offensive identity?
Right.
Or is it just a bunch of guys having their ceiling season at once? That's the first question. And the second big question for me is, like, is Trey Savage actually a top of the rotation piece? Like, if he is, I think this rotation has potential to be really good.
Yeah.
If he's not, like, a lot of things can start to fall apart, right? And it can start to be a house of cards. So that's the big question. As far as an offensive grade, Mike, I gave them a B-.
Yep.
I give them credit for, you know, aiming to improve things. The loss of Bo Bichette hurts, but I think, you know, they went out and they signed Okamoto. They went out, they signed Dylan Cease. I can appreciate the effort that's being made here. My criticism of them is, I think, like, Framber Valdez would have been an even better fit here.
Yeah,
like, they need a left-handed arm in that rotation.
Yeah.
And that's an ace that I think would have fit really well here. I also think, I mean, look, Kyle Tucker, they didn't get him, right? A lot of teams went for him and didn't get him. I don't necessarily knock them for that. But to me, they needed to really push the Yankees on Cody Bellinger. Like, that's another guy that I think could have really helped raise the floor with this lineup.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of Blue Jay people probably had the conversation of, do we want to sign Cody Bellinger to similar money to what we gave Anthony Santander and have 2 of those guys under contract at the same time for the same amount of time? You know what I mean? So I think there was probably an argument made in that. I'm sure they discussed it. There's no way they didn't talk about bringing in Cody Bellinger at that point. I mean, it certainly was reported that they could have been interested. So I don't know. We'll see about the Blue Jays. I think they're due for a step back. But a team that I think, and you just brought it up, that could really be on the rise. Let's talk about the Boston Red Sox. Now, this is a team that the first thing that stands out to me is this rotation got way better. It really did. This is a much improved rotation. Garrett Crochet is probably one of the 3 or 4 best pitchers in the game, right? Ranger Suarez and Sonny Gray are not small additions to this rotation. Okay. Sonny Gray is I don't know. I mean, at this point in his career, he might be more of a higher end, middle of the rotation starter. But if Sonny Gray's your number 3, I mean, that's a pretty solid piece to have at this, at this juncture. And look at the guys they have in the IL. Now, I don't know what the outlook on a lot of these guys are, but Cutter Crawford, Tanner Houck, we've seen these guys at the top of their game, and they've been really, really good, right? Johan Oviedo was a nice piece they brought in. Now, here's the thing. I think despite the fact that they made a lot of additions to this rotation, I think losing Alex Bregman was a big deal for this team. It really was a big deal. Especially on top of the fact after trading Rafi Devers last year, then you lose Alex Bregman in free agency. Now you're running out Marcelo Meyer and Caleb Durbin to play third base time. I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have about the Red Sox, but you said before that you kind of thought that you think that they're good. What impresses you right now about the Red Sox? Excuse me.
Yeah. I think they have just as high of a ceiling as the Yankees and Blue Jays. The problem for them is I think that ceiling is going to require a little bit more to go right. Like I think the way I wrote it up is if every single thing breaks right, this rotation is going to be a fearsome group to face in a playoff series. Like that's a tough draw. If you're taking on Garrett Crochet, Ranger Suarez, Sonny Gray in a short series, and let's say Tanner Houck is healthy, right?
Right.
This is going to be a tough rotation to deal with.
Even if you draw Brian Bayo in a game 4, that's not easy.
Yeah. And so I think what they've built on the pitching side, like, has legitimate lasting power here where they can actually stand to take an injury or two, which is a big part of how you have to evaluate a rotation at this point, right? Because guys are going to get hurt. Like, you and I are inevitably going to do a show in late April, early May, where one of our topics is, man, there are a lot of pitching injuries. Like, it's just inevitable. Like, that's what happens in this day and age in baseball, right? They're a team that's built to withstand that. And that, to me, is part of why I think they could be really good. Now, I want to address the obvious question marks, right? It's everything happening on the left side of this graphic.
Right.
I think we know Jarren Duran is good. I think we know that Wilson Contreras at this point is somebody who will produce and help drive in runs and was a really big get for them. I trust Wilyer Abreu will hit. Outside of that, there's not really a single sure thing offensively on this roster. And some people are going to argue with me on Roman Anthony. I think Roman Anthony has potential to be great. But I mean, we still have to see it, right? And we've seen flashes of it, but we still have to see it. Now, the ceiling here is really high because if Roman Anthony is what he's made out to be, right? If Caleb Durbin can be an elite contact hitter, if Carlos Narvaez can be an above-average offensive catcher, if Marcelo Meyer can live up to his prospect pedigree, if Tristan Casas can come back and contribute something at some point, like, there is a world in which this lineup starts to look pretty deep with young talent. But it's fair to question, like, what are you actually going to get here? Like, what can you really rely on? Because I'll tell you what, when this lineup had Alex Bregman and Rafi Devers in it, it looked a lot better.
It did. And it was better. Like, I don't think that there's any argument that it was better. And I know the Red Sox kind of got hot after Devers left, but I just don't see. Now, listen, I think that the direction that this team is going in is very, very clear. They're going to try and win a lot of low-scoring games and bank on their young players coming around to hit, right? The Roman Anthonys, the Marcelo Meyers, those guys, they're going to bank on them to start producing with the stick. And if they do, then the outlook of their season becomes much, much better, right? If Roman Anthony becomes a 900 OPS player, then that lineup gets real good, real fast. It really does. But again, I mean, he's a 22-year-old kid, or however old Roman Anthony is. The guy's a teenager, for God's sakes. I mean, it's a lot of expectation to put on, granted, the number one prospect in all of baseball at one point, but I think that's a lot to hang your hat on. Now, again, if they can, solidify what they've done with their pitching staff and carry that through most of the season, stay healthy, actually get true production out of those guys, then I think the Red Sox are going to be right in that fight as well. Now, again, if you're asking me, where do I put them as far as teams in the AL East? I mean, I think they're probably slightly below, for me, slightly below the Yankees and the Blue Jays for the top of that division. Probably slightly below. And I think they're right around in the same company as the Orioles, who we're going to talk about in a minute. But
yeah, I mean, here's a question I would pose to you, because to me, this is what it hinges on. If the Red Sox offense lands somewhere between 10th and 15th best in baseball, to me,
they're a playoff team.
To me, they can win the division if that happens. Like if they have the 12th best offense in baseball, they might be the best team in the American League. And like, that's what makes them scary, right? Yeah. Now, the problem there is they might have the 24th best offense in baseball.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. In which case, like, they're probably a wild card team and kind of a fringy team. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Like, I think a realistic estimate on this team is 85 wins. But, you know, like the Blue Jays, the ceiling, I think, is around 100 wins, but the floor is kind of low. The floor is 75.
So you think that the Red Sox could win 100 games?
If things break right offensively and their pitching stays healthy, I mean, like I said, right? Like, if this is the 10th best offense in baseball, this might be the second or third best rotation in baseball. Mm-hmm. Like, you can ride that a long way.
Yeah. Certainly.
I'm not saying it's likely, right? But when I'm building ceilings, I'm thinking about like actual best case scenarios. Yeah. As far as offseason grade, Mike, I'm curious to hear if you agree with me here. I'm actually giving them an A-, highest grade I've given out so far.
Interesting.
Losing Alex Bregman is a big deal, and we've talked about that. But there's no doubt in my mind that the Red Sox got better this offseason. Like, adding Ranger Suarez and Sonny Gray into that rotation, adding Johan Oviedo into the back of that rotation, that's pretty great. And don't get me wrong, losing Bregman's an issue, but like, I mean, Wilson Contreras is a run producer, and he's also a leader in the clubhouse for that team. Certainly. And Caleb Durbin, right, if you want to look at the bright side with him, could be a good offensive piece. And maybe in the aggregate, they do replace Bregman with those guys. So, like, to me, I think the Red Sox, more than almost any other team we're going to talk about today, very clearly got better from one year to the next.
Yeah, I think I probably wouldn't go as high as A-. I'd probably go in the B-ish range for them, because I really think losing Bregman was a big deal. Like, even with the addition of Contreras, I think if you were able to add Contreras and bring back Bregman, then you're talking about legitimately being at the top of this division, like for real. I think adding Caleb Durbin, he's going to be in the Romy Gonzalez, David Hamilton mix of like super utility players that they throw around everywhere. But I don't know that he's going to be the guy that's going to, fill the void in a sense. And again, offensively, you're looking at Wilson Contreras to really do a lot of the heavy lifting in the middle of that lineup. I don't know if he's going to produce it the same way that Alex Bregman would in that ballpark. I just don't know that he would. So, but I don't think it's a bad offseason. I mean, they clearly picked a direction, right? Yeah. They picked a direction for this team to go. If they're going to hang their hat on, listen, our money is going to go into the pitching side of this thing. And we're going to rely. I mean, we have some of the best prospects in baseball. That's not a lie. The Red Sox have some of the top prospects in all of baseball. If they're going to say, listen, we're going to see if Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer and Carlos Narvaez and these guys if they can lift us offensively, then this thing is going to work perfectly. So let's talk about the Baltimore Orioles. Okay. Because again, and we can understand why we're starting in the East now. Okay. I was pretty shocked when the Orioles signed Pete Alonso. Like that was really the big one for me, because I was almost I was really confident that at some point down the line, Pete Alonso would end up back with the Mets. I really thought that. But but that relationship really seemed to sour. This is an interesting team. I would go as far to say that this has the potential for me. If it all clicks again with Gunnar, if it all clicks again with Adley Rutschman, if Colton Cowser still remains hitting, right? Samuel Basallo gives you more offensively as he's expected, right? Guys like Westberg and Holiday come back. This has a chance to be a really dangerous offense. Really, really dangerous. They can hit like nobody else's business. I still come away, though, Dalton, with the same issue I had last year with them. Are they going to get enough pitching out of their rotation? And I still kind of think the answer is no. I look at that rotation, and Trevor Rogers had a surge of a year last year, but Kyle Bradish has had his injury issues. They gave up a ton to get Shane Baz. Chris Bassett is towards the end of his career at this point. And then it's a whole lot of, fluff for me with Dean Kramer and Zach Eflin and like Tyler Wells. Like, I really think that this is just, I don't know that they did enough in the pitching department to, I guess, legitimize their offense. Does that make sense? I just don't know that I'm with them yet.
Yeah. The way I wrote it up for them, first of all, ceiling I have around 90, 95 wins and like an ALCS. I don't quite think they're a team that can win a championship because of the rotation, like you said.
Yeah.
But they do deserve credit for making investments on the pitching side and like improving the floor over there, because as much as none of those names that you just read to me are outright aces, they go 8 deep with like decent starting pitching options. And that matters in an environment where you very well are probably going to lose 2 or 3 of these guys to injury by May 1st. Right. And to me, like when Shane Baz is your number 4 option, like, and look, Tyler Wells might come back and be really good. Like Cade Povich might continue to develop into a really good arm. Like Trevor Rogers was really special a few years ago in Miami. Like maybe he's back, right? Like Kyle Bradish is pretty talented. Like
Trevor Rogers was amazing for them last year.
Yeah. And so like there's potential for this to actually be a pretty good rotation. And if it comes out that way, you said it with this lineup, right? I think Taylor Ward is a great fit for what this team needs offensively.
That was such a good move. Trading Grayson Rodriguez in my mind, like, because I don't buy Grayson Rodriguez at this point as a legitimate playoff team starting pitcher. I just don't. The injury history and the inconsistency have killed it for me for him.
I do buy Grayson Rodriguez. I'm still a believer in his potential and kind of and what you might see from him post-hype. But I can understand why you feel that way. I didn't like giving up Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward. I would have rather seen them do that with prospects as opposed to like a major league pitcher who might have been their ace this year. Like, but that's just how I feel about Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah.
But in a vacuum, Taylor Ward is a great addition for this team.
Certainly.
Pete Alonso certainly makes the middle of this offense a lot deeper.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, it's not unreasonable to expect a resurgence from Adley Rutschman. And part of the reason I feel that way is he's got some extra pressure on him now because Samuel Basallo is really good right behind him.
And they paid him already. They paid Basallo already.
And so if Basallo can come out and hit and push Rutschman and maybe they both produce, like this could be a really deep and really strong like lineup, right? So I think this is a team that I think you might see just yo-yo back from where they were last year. And I could totally see a world where they win 95 games. And look, at that point, like let's say if Baltimore gets to the trade deadline and they're, 58-38 or something as we come to about that time, like I'm very interested to see what they do, because to me, this is a team that if the lineup is clicking in that way and they go out and they acquire an ace at the deadline.
Yeah. Right.
Now you really got to look out for this team.
Yeah.
And it's part of what makes the American League East really, really interesting this year is I think you've got 4 teams in this division that could be really good if things break their way. But look, I want to address the flip side of this too. And the floor for me with them is pretty low. It's 70 to 75 wins.
Yeah.
It's last place in the AL East. And I mean, I think this is unlikely, but hear me out. Maybe Adley Rutschman just isn't that guy. Like, maybe the Mets are making a good bet and letting Pete Alonso walk, and maybe his numbers take a hit at Camden Yards and his defense keeps slipping.
Yeah.
Like, maybe this pitching staff is deep, but it's a bunch of B- guys who raise the floor but not the ceiling.
Right.
Like, maybe Felix Bautista never gets fully healthy. Like, maybe this bullpen just can't really get outs.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a world that we live in, that we could live in, where that all of that exists.
Like, they might be bad. I mean, and I don't know that I don't know that like the Yankees are not going to be bad, right? Like, I think if the Blue Jays floor is still like an okay team, right? Even the Red Sox, like, but the Orioles might, like, if they don't see improvement from a few of these guys and the pitching doesn't work. And we talked a lot last year about how this organization cannot develop pitching. Like, they just cannot do it.
Right.
And so they have to go off the reservation to get pitching. Well, if that doesn't work, now you've given up a bunch of prospects to bring in guys.
Yeah.
They better hit. So it's a precarious thing. The player I'm most excited about is Basayo. Like, this is a big body, former top prospect, power hitting catcher. Yeah. If he can hit and push Adley Rutschman, that really raises their floor. For the offseason grade, I gave them a B+, only because to me, trading Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward was a bit baffling, because I think you're detracting from what was kind of a weak spot for your team there. But I think the rest of what they did was pretty great. They added a lot of talent.
Yeah. I think I really am not, because I was thinking the same thing when they traded Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward. I'm like, I was thinking the same exact thing as you. I was literally thinking, okay, Taylor Ward's a great fit for that lineup. He's a great addition. We finally get to see Taylor Ward play for a team that could potentially make a push for a playoff spot, right? Like, he's certainly that kind of caliber player, but Grayson Rodriguez was certainly a cog in that rotation. Like, he was without a doubt a fixture in that rotation. But Grayson Rodriguez is also like that's what just made me think a little bit more. And I was like at this point, like Grayson Rodriguez has been with that organization for a good amount of years and just has not given you anything special. Now, he certainly has the stuff and the talent to make it work. But given the injury history and the inconsistency issues that they've seen with him, they might have just said, you know what? We'll take our pitching elsewhere. Let's just try to beef up this lineup, and we'll figure out other ways to improve this rotation. Like, honestly, and I don't know that that's a poor move. I just don't. Grayson Rodriguez has a lot of question marks still for me. So,
yeah, I mean, it has some similarity to what you talked about with the Red Sox, right? Like, if nothing else, they've picked a direction.
Right. We'll quickly touch on the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, they always find a way to be feisty, right, Dalton? I mean, this is a team where, and I said it last year, if there was a year where the Rays could come up and win the division, it was last year, because I didn't have that much of high expectations of a lot of teams last year in this division. This year, I think it's the exact opposite. I think the Rays are destined for last place here. Unless one of these other teams, like you said, like the Red Sox or the Orioles, bottom out. I think this is a team with a decent amount of young talent, right? Jonathan Aranda, Junior Caminero are certainly names that stand out, but I just don't think there's enough here, Dalton. I don't think that there's really much expectation here with Tampa.
Yeah, I'll start with ceiling floor here. Ceiling for me with them, I mean, best case scenario, 85 to 90 wins. You finish second in the division. Maybe you get to an ALDS. Here's how that looks. The top four in this lineup, and for me, I would have had Chandler Simpson at the top, right? Like, if he can hit for contact at all, his speed is lethal. And if behind him you have Yandy Diaz, Jonathan Aranda, Junior Caminero, it's a lot of firepower on the top of that lineup. Now, after those guys, it's a lot of like, well, if this guy does what we think he might, sure, right? And they do have a decent ability to like platoon left and right-handed hitters. But a lot of this comes down to like, can Gavin Lux take the next step, right? Can Cedric Mullins be the star that he was at times in Baltimore? If those guys are good, like they're going to be able to do some fun platooning, and I think this can be a decently productive offense. The story on the pitching side is kind of similar, right? Like I think the ceiling for Shane McClanahan is incredibly high, but like when is he going to be healthy, and what is this going to actually look like this year? I don't know. I'm a believer in Ryan Pepio since he was with the Dodgers. I think he's a very solid arm, but like you don't necessarily like I don't know that I think he's an ace, right?
I think he's in middle of the rotation arm. Yeah.
Same thing with Rasmussen. Like at his ceiling, I'll put it this way: if those three guys hit their ceilings, this is a good rotation. Full stop. Very good rotation. If those three guys are as good as they can be.
Yeah.
The problem is like I haven't seen enough consistent health from these guys. I haven't seen it consistently year in and year out from these guys to believe in it. And like I think Nick Martinez is like a decent depth piece. Same with Steven Matz, but like
I mean, Steven Matz has spent wouldn't say the majority, but at least the last few years of his career. Shout out to a Long Island guy at least, but the last few years of his career in the bullpen, and now you're reinserting him back into the rotation.
Yeah, I think you can really feel that they traded away Shane Baz and Taj Bradley here. Like you can really feel that when you look at this rotation, right? Now look, it's a Kevin Cash Rays team. They can have some magic sometimes, right?
They're going to be a pain in the ass. So like
they're going back into Tropicana Field, and like if you pull up that list of names in the rotation, like who's to say that like Ian Seymour doesn't pop this year? Like that's just how the Rays operate, right? Like there's one of these guys I'd be willing to bet that they know something about him that we don't.
Yeah, we're gonna get some crazy innings out of Jesse Schultens this year, right?
Yeah. Now the floor with them is low. I've got the floor with them at 65 wins. There's a chance this team's just bad. Like if Jonathan Aranda doesn't validate what we saw last year, the league adjusts to him. If Chandler Simpson just really can't actually hit, like Yandy Diaz is pretty old. Gavin Lux has never really proven it for a full season. Cedric Mullins, again, getting pretty old. Like, there's a chance this offense is bad, and, like, nobody's there to really protect Junior Caminero. Yeah. It could end up looking as cheap as it is, right? And then the pitching, like we talked about, it's really thin. Like, McClanahan's no guarantee to be healthy. I mean, if let's say, for example, McClanahan isn't healthier himself, and one of Rasmussen or Pepio goes down, this becomes like arguably the worst rotation in the American League or close to it, down there with the White Sox and a couple others.
Right.
So the floor is pretty low here. I gave their offseason a C+ because at least they were active. Like they went out and added Cedric Mullins and Gavin Lux, and they, added Nick Martinez, and they're clearly trading away some guys and trying to build depth to continue being the Rays. I give them some credit for that, but look, the golden ticket for this organization, and I result here. I think the most likely result is this team wins 70 to 75 games. They're bad, and Junior Caminero is great. Like, he's the golden ticket for this organization. Like, they've got to find a way to either build a winner around him while he's still there, or make a franchise-altering trade with him that eventually leads to the next good Rays team down the road.
Right.
Like, he's the key for this team as an organization moving forward.
Right. Yeah. Listen, we'll see where it goes with them. But yeah, I mean, I think with some of the expectations that we're seeing from a lot of the other teams in the AL East this year, I think they've got a long road ahead of them. Let's move to the National League. Okay. Obviously, because we love making fun of them on this show, Dalton, and we've made kind of a pastime of it. Let's start with the New York Mets. Okay. Look, they made a much needed rotation move when they traded for Freddie Peralta, right? Like that was something that really kind of needed to happen for them to have a shot. Because now this rotation, I think, actually doesn't look too bad. And it depends on a lot of factors, right? Like, is Nolan McLean you've been using the term a lot. Is he going to validate what we saw last year? I know that Met fans have a lot of high expectations for him. David Peterson had a really solid year for them last year. Can they reignite Sean Manaea again? Can they get Kodai Senga back on track? Like it's those kind of questions. But I would say, among other things, the Mets had for the lack of a better term, an interesting offseason this year. They really did, right? Trading Brandon Nimmo, they let Pete Alonso walk, they let Edwin Diaz walk, and then they spend a ton of money and sign Bo Bichette. They trade for Marcus Semien, they trade for Luis Robert. I mean, they made the rumor mill come true. I really don't know how else to describe it, Dalton, but what do you think the outlook is for the Mets as a team that had one of the more disappointing seasons in baseball last year after signing Juan Soto and making all that, making that big investment? Now they've kind of shaken things up. What do you make of their offseason and their outlook for this year?
Yeah, it's a lot of mixed feelings here because – and I think with them, I want to start on the offseason grade side and then go to the ceiling and floor.
Yeah.
I'm going to give their offseason a B. Like, I do want to make sure that I give them credit for not running it back with a team that wasn't good enough. Mm-hmm. Right. But man, a lot of talent went out the door here.
A lot.
Like Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz are not minor losses. And like what Brandon Nimmo provided to this team was pretty valuable. Like as far as just being like when he was healthy, an everyday outfielder who like he raised the floor of that team, I think a significant amount. The thing that's the Mets to me this year are kind of a black box. Like outside of Lindor and Juan Soto, both of whom I think you can reliably expect to be great. Outside of them, this lineup to me is so hazy. Like, I don't know, like Bo Bichette doesn't look that healthy. He doesn't look like he's in great shape in camp to me.
And he's had his ups and downs in his career. It's not like he's a surefire thing to hit
he's had ups and downs. He's switching positions. Like, right. I don't know how that's going to go. I can understand why you take the chance, but I don't know how that's going to go. Same thing with Jorge Polanco. We've seen him be awesome. We've also seen him be bad. The last time he changed scenery, it was rough for him for a year.
It was really rough. Jorge Polanco had a good year last year in Seattle, but I think it's important to point out, too, that the year before that, Jorge Polanco was the worst qualified hitter in baseball. And that's not an exaggeration. He was statistically the worst qualified hitter in baseball 2 years ago.
Yeah, and now he changes scenery again. I don't know what you're going to get from him, and you're asking him to play first? It's a weird fit, man.
Right. And he's probably going to be splitting time because I'm sure they're going to throw Mark Vientos over there too.
Yeah. And then you take Marcus Semien, who, don't get me wrong, I think he's a solid player, but is he a better option for you right now than Brandon Nimmo? I'm not so sure. Brett Beatty, I have no clue what to expect from him, but I haven't seen a whole lot that's promising, right? Francisco Alvarez, I don't know what to really expect there. And Luis Robert, again, you're buying a ceiling with him, but the reason that the White Sox weren't able to trade him for what they've wanted for most of the last few years is because he hasn't produced on the field, and there's a lot of fairly legitimate questions around his effort level and his care level. And I think some of what the Mets wanted to change this offseason was to have a better clubhouse. I mean, I don't know much about Luis Robert, right? But the rumors that you hear with regards to his work ethic and things like that are not always great.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of I don't know what to expect here. There's a chance, look, if Bo Bichette is full Bo Bichette, if Jorge Polanco is the guy he was last year, if Marcus Semien is good, if Luis Robert shows us why he was a top prospect in baseball before getting called up, there's a chance that Luis Robert just needed to change the scenery, right? So my ceiling for them is 95 wins, and I think they can win a World Series. But I also realistically think that they and Atlanta are both looking up at Philly in this division. That's really where I land. I haven't talked about the pitching yet either, because I think that's going to be a really important piece of this.
Yeah.
Freddie Peralta is a very solid top of the rotation arm. Is he an ace of aces? I'm not so sure. I think he's very good. I don't know if I'd say he's great. Nolan McLean looked awesome last year. He's the biggest X factor for them this season. 5-1 with a 2.06 ERA was awesome, but that was a 7-start sample size.
Right.
Give teams a full offseason to adjust back to him. Now you're going to ask him to go through a full season in that rotation. We'll see. We'll see, right? And then after that, it's just a whole bunch of question marks on both health and on effectiveness. So I don't know, man. I think the Mets raised their floor a little bit? Yes. But I don't think they raised their ceiling all that much.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you in that respect. I do think that the Mets, one of the things that you said that I think is crucial in this is I think the Mets should be given credit, excuse me, for not running it back.
Yeah.
Right. They certainly got creative. If nothing else, they got creative. I think more than anything else, though, like, I understand not wanting to run it back. But letting Pete Alonso walk, I think, is borderline stupid. Like that's like really tough stuff to mess with. Pete Alonso was so productive for them last year, and he's been productive for them for years. That's just not going to be easy to replace. It's just not. Like, I don't know that Bo Bichette, excuse me, I don't know that Bo Bichette fills that void. I just don't.
I think I can pretty confidently say he doesn't.
Right. So I don't know. Like I think their pitching is going to get better. I do. Like, I think their pitching will be better than it was last year, at least in their starting rotation.
Yeah, probably.
But,
probably. Mike, I think part of where my kind of like the bad taste in my mouth comes from with this offseason for them is it felt to me as if they didn't get the guy they wanted, and they kept having to like scramble for their next option.
But like, that's like, who was the guy they wanted? Like, I don't think it was Kyle Tucker. Like, it wasn't like.
I mean, Kyle Tucker probably, yeah. I mean, Kyle Tucker would have been a really like I'll put it this way. I mean, I'd rather acquire Kyle Tucker than Luis Robert, right? Like,
oh sure.
I think that's a guy they would have liked to have had. I think Wilson Contreras is a guy that would have fit really well there. I think it would, especially on the pitching side. Like, how do you not land one of Framber Valdez or Dylan Cease? Like, don't get me wrong, Freddie Peralta is great, but like, there were free agents out there that you didn't have to give up prospects to get.
I thought Framber Valdez was a perfect fit for that rotation.
And so that's the thing. Like Mike, think about it this way. If you take this offseason as what it is, right? Mm-hmm. And then if I also told you that they signed Framber Valdez, how differently do you feel about their pitching staff?
Right.
Wildly.
Right, of course. Absolutely.
So I think the Mets, the reason that they get a B with me is they were active, and I think they did their best to not give up and keep fighting after they missed out on some of the things that I think they really wanted to do. But like, the Mets claim to be the team with the most money to spend, right?
Yeah.
They claim to be the team with the biggest pockets. Mm-hmm. And yet they didn't really win much on the free agent market. If I'm a Mets fan, I'm like, man, what do we do well?
Well, that's really the argument I've had since the beginning of last season. Was it seemed like the Mets flexed their muscles with Juan Soto and then operated like a normal team after that for 2 straight years. Like, I hate to say it, but like, I really feel like Juan Soto was like their token item, like the guy that they wanted more than anything. They were going to make that happen. And then the rest of it, they were just going to let fall.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let's talk about the Phillies. Now, this is the presumed favorite of the division. Now, the big thing, obviously, if you're looking at the right side of the screen here, Zach Wheeler being on the IL, that's a big deal for this rotation. It really, really is. Now, again, I still don't think they're hopeless after that, right? Because Christopher Sanchez has really established himself. Jesus Luzardo is really solid. And it depends on, like, I still think that there's some upside with Andrew Painter. I think that they could get something out of him. But this is now a lineup that looks a little different, right? It's not exactly the same as what it was. Nick Castellanos is no longer there. They replace him with Adolis Garcia. And, I mean, now you're looking at, bringing back Kyle Schwarber. Was Alec, I mean, there were a lot of talks that Alec Boehm wasn't going to be here. So it's an interesting team, but They almost might win this division by default, Dalton. I like that's kind of how I feel about them. I'm not overly excited about the Phillies. I still think they're good, but I still think they're probably a favorite to win the division.
Yeah, I certainly agree that they're the favorite to win the division. To me, the ceiling on Philly is 100+ wins, World Series champions. Like, I mean, I'll say this, and you might not agree with me here, but I think this is the second best overall roster in baseball, from as I see it. Sure, Zach Wheeler's going to miss opening day. He's expected to be back before the end of April, so I'm not too worried about that. And when I look at this rotation, Mike, Christopher Sanchez is like a top 5 or 6 pitcher in baseball, I could argue. Like, to have Wheeler and Sanchez at the top of that rotation,
yeah, right,
is an unbelievable, like, it's an unbelievable way to approach a playoff series with those two.
Right.
And then you have Jesus Luzardo behind that, Aaron Nola behind that. Andrew Painter is a guy that like they've held on to and not traded when they've had a lot of opportunities to use that as a chip to go get some big names. It's a little bit like back in 2015, 16, when the Dodgers had Corey Seager as a prospect and everybody wanted him. And I remember like there was a deal on the table to trade Corey Seager for Cole Hamels from the Phillies. And like the Dodgers just kept holding on to him and it was driving people insane. And then they called him up and everybody was like, oh, wait a minute. This is why. Right. Like that to me is where like I'm excited to see what Andrew Painter is because they've invested a lot in him by not trading him.
Yeah.
And especially if Zach Wheeler misses a few starts early, I think Painter is going to get a chance. So I'm really excited to see how that looks because if Andrew Painter is even just a middle of the rotation arm as a rookie, this is an incredibly deep pitching staff. Like really deep. And I mean, it's a really solid bullpen that's got Yohan Duran at the back end too. So I think this team's going to be able to get a lot of outs and the offense isn't going to have to be a juggernaut for the Phillies to be really good. Now, I do think there are real concerns about this offense.
Yeah.
The floor of this offense, we saw it. We've seen it at times the last couple of years in October that like the floor of this offense can be lower than I think Phillies fans want to admit. Like, and Bryce Harper is not getting younger. Trey Turner is not getting younger, and speed is the first thing to go, right? I think it's key that they brought back Kyle Schwarber. I think they needed to do that.
Yep.
I can understand why you would make the bet on Adolis Garcia. I like that bet for them. But I think this is a team that is going to need to make an investment in the offense at the deadline. But I think the pitching is going to provide them a really high floor. The top of this lineup is still great on paper as of now. I think their floor is 85 to 90 wins. Like there's no world in which the Phillies are bad this year. Yeah. So, I mean, look, I think for me, this is the second best team in the National League, possibly the second best team in baseball. I think it's fair to point out that, like, I mean, they were very close to being the team that knocked off the Dodgers last year. Like they were they were right there.
Right.
You know, and I think if the Dodgers didn't exist, this team might be the World Series favorite. I think they're that kind of good.
Yeah. Well, listen, they could certainly be that good. They absolutely can be that good. I 100% agree with you that I think they're going to have to make an offensive move at the deadline. Like if there's going to be a thing that holds them back, it's going to be that. That team screams, I need an outfielder. Like that's what it screams to me, right? You're relying on a young kid in Justin Crawford to play center field every day, right? Brandon Marsh has had his ups and downs in his career. Like it screams that they need an outfielder. And Adolis Garcia could walk into that building, hit 150, and the experiment's over. It could 100% happen that way.
Mike, I have a thought for you that's been thrown around over the years that I think is worth throwing around again this year. Like, is this the year that the Mike Trout Angels divorce finally happens and he gets traded to Philly?
If there was ever a year.
Like, I mean, I could see it, right? And that's the kind of move that would make sense. We'll see.
That one always, like, that's always on somebody's tongue, but it just never seems to happen.
Yeah.
But it would be a really crazy fit. I mean, that would be such a cool, unfortunate for a lot of other baseball fans, but that really would be a cool thing to see. Mike Trout going to his, not hometown. He's a Jersey kid, but he likes all the Philly teams, whatever it is. Let's talk about the Atlanta Braves. So I've kind of given up on trying to predict where this team can go. I really have. Like the past 2 years, I've just been like, they've kind of bit me in the ass, because I keep saying, oh, well, look at this lineup and how talented it is. And, Spencer Strider is, going to be a Cy Young. And I always say all that crap. And then they just come back, and for 2 years in a row, they're just like, yeah, we're just going to be mediocre. Like, I don't know, man. Like, look, Acuna is obviously amazing. Matt Olson's obviously really good. I still think Austin Riley can play a bunch, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't even know that they're better than the Mets. I really don't. Like, they're certainly not better than Philly. And Chris Sale, as good as he's been for them, is not getting any younger. The rest of that rotation seems pretty pedestrian to me, right? Ronaldo Lopez has been pretty solid, for the past couple of years in spots. But guys like Bryce Elder and, you're starting with Spencer Schwellenbach in the IL. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think I'm done. I think I'm done with the Braves, Dalton. Like, I can't buy into them anymore.
I get it. I'm not done.
You're not done.
I'm not.
You're going to be fooled once again.
Look, like, they've been remarkably unlucky with injuries the last couple of years. That's a big part of this. This is still one of the most talented rosters in baseball if they stay healthy. And if they stay healthy, I do think they can potentially win this division. Like, I'm not saying it's likely, but like if things break their way and maybe don't break Philly's way, I think there's enough talent here. I want to say this first. I give them an A for the offseason. Like, I give Atlanta a ton of credit. This is the kind of offseason that I think a lot of other teams could have and should have had. Like, they're only increasing their payroll around $50 million. And in doing that, you're bringing Robert Suarez into your bullpen. You're bringing Jonah Heim in as catching depth. You're bringing in guys like Jorge Mateo, right, that are really like toolsy, quick, can change things on your bench a little bit. I love the Ha-Seong Kim signing. It's unfortunate that he got hurt. Yeah. And then Mauricio Dubon and Mike Yastrzemski are very clear upgrades at the bottom of this lineup. Mike Yastrzemski is hitting the cover off the ball already. That's quietly a really good ad for this team.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing with Dubon. He's a guy that can play all over the field and is a decent offensive piece. So to me, like Ronald Acuna, we know he's great, right? Matt Olson's a good offensive player. I'm never going to be somebody who bets against Austin Riley. Ozzie Albies, I know it feels like he's been around together. Mike, he's 29. He's not even 30 yet. I'm still okay with owning some Ozzie Albies stock, right? Like,
yeah.
Jurickson Profar for all the off the field stuff and how much of a clown he is. Like, plenty of talent there, right? The best of Jurickson Profar is still good. Like Michael Harris, again, I wouldn't be shocked by a bounce back there, right? And then Drake Baldwin just won Rookie of the Year, like,
right?
I mean. And that's without factoring in Sean Murphy, who will compete for innings. That's, Jonah Heim could get some innings. Like, this is a pretty deep offensive roster. Like, I think even the bench here is pretty solid. So I think this is a good team. Now, in the rotation, I think it's fair to question after Sale and Strider, both of whom it's fair to question their health, right? But after Sale and Strider, like, what are you actually going to get from Reynaldo Lopez and Grant Holmes and Bryce Elder? Like, Spencer Schwellenbach might be out for a little while. Like, Jose Suarez is just kind of a depth piece. Like, to me, it's going to be when they get their 3 through 5 starters on the mound each week, whoever those guys are, can they either hit enough or just get enough from those guys that they're not like a bad team on those days? It's kind of a simplistic way to think about it, but like, I think this team's good. I do. I think adding Robert Suarez into that bullpen takes some pressure off of Raisel Iglesias. I trust Atlanta to develop pitching. It's something that they do well.
They do.
So I feel good about it, Mike. I still think this is like I still think this is one of the better just organizations in baseball in terms of how they're run, in terms of how they develop talent.
Certainly.
And I think those things matter, and I think there's a lot of talent here. So I'm still buying in on the Braves. Sure.
So what's the ceiling for them? What's the ceiling? What's the floor?
Ceiling 95 to 100 wins. I think they can win a World Series.
Wow, you really wow. So you're still like fully in then.
I mean, their ceiling to me is the same as the Mets, right? Like if everything breaks right, this team could be really good. I think that ceiling is flimsier and less likely to exist than the Phillies ceiling. I think them and the Mets are realistically probably competing for second. But if everything goes their way,
yeah,
they can be really good, right? The floor here, 80 wins, average team, and it looks a lot like last year. Like Strider and Sale don't have great health track records. Maybe Austin Riley's not that guy, right? I think that the bottom here is lower than it was a few years ago, and that matters.
I mean, there's got to be some sort of bounce back. Like logic would tell you there's got to be some sort of bounce back, right? Like, look, Austin Riley can't possibly go from a 950 OPS player to a guy who's a league average third baseman. Like it just can't happen. It can't.
And Mike, this is an organization that, and again, I know these things are kind of nebulous, right? But this is an organization that has won most of our lives.
Yeah.
And is
yeah, right.
Like they're accustomed to winning. Their fans expect to win. They know how to build a winner. They know how to develop talent. The Braves, all the little things around the edges that an organization does well, the Braves typically do well.
And it took a while, too. I mean, the Braves were bad for a decent amount of time to get to the point where they are now.
For a decent amount of time, right? But for most of our life, they've been great.
Sure. Absolutely.
And it's kind of the opposite of the Mets, where, like, to me, the Mets, the burden of proof I assign to the Mets is a lot higher than for the Braves because I've seen the Braves develop guys successfully and make the most of things and make smart moves and build contenders over and over. Yep. Whereas with the Mets, I've seen a lot of hype and not a lot of production over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, I'm more willing to buy what the Braves sell me than what the Mets sell me year in and year out from a super generalized sense.
Well, from that perspective, I agree with you. First episode back and forever, we're still dogging the Mets. It's still so funny.
I will always dog the Mets.
Always dog the Mets. But no, I agree. I mean, I think the Braves, like, I do think I buy the Braves upside more than I buy the Mets.
Yeah.
I do somewhat think the Braves have a lower floor than the Mets do, though. Like, I think the Mets the Mets are more likely for me to be average than the Braves are. The Braves are very boom or bust for me.
I agree because the Mets the Mets are deeper on the pitching staff.
Yeah.
The Braves are better. Like the top of the Braves rotation is better.
Is better, without a doubt.
But like if things bottom out injury-wise, the Mets are still going to be throwing like serviceable guys out there. Mm-hmm. The Braves, it's not like you don't get that far down that list before you're just throwing minor leaguers out there.
Right. 100%. All right. Well, these last two, I mean, I think we're both in agreement that these last two teams that we're going to cover in this division are not all that hopeful for a division title, unless you're going to tell me otherwise.
Not for a division title, but I do think the Marlins are worth talking about.
Yeah. So, I think it seems to be the same story with the Marlins every year. Okay. It's a lot of good pitching and a bunch of young names that could turn out to be something, right? We really saw a lot from Kyle Stowers last year. I mean, they really got something out of Kyle Stowers. Augustin Ramirez, I also think, is a really solid offensive catcher. Again, one of the pieces the Yankees traded for Jazz Chisholm. Listen, getting Owen Casey from the Cubs, right, after they traded Edward Cabrera, I mean, that's a piece they're certainly looking at. They ended up holding on to Sandy Alcantara, who I thought, like, they were for sure going to trade Sandy Alcantara this offseason, and they didn't do it. Yuri Perez still has that massive upside. Guys like Max Meyer and Braxton Garrett still have really solid upside. And they really did. I mean, they tried to kind of retool a little bit from the rotation. Right after trading Edward Cabrera, after trading Ryan Weathers, they really tried to take some of those pieces from their deep pitching and use those resources elsewhere. I mean, the Marlins are certainly building something. Obviously, they're not there yet, but there's some, like, I agree with you. There is something to talk about here.
Yeah. I'll start with ceiling and floor. Ceiling, I mean, the floor is not that interesting because we know the Marlins might be bad, right?
Sure.
But the ceiling here to me is 85 wins, third place in the NL East, and like sneak into a wild card series. I think there's a pretty good chance one of those top three teams falls behind the Marlins this year. I don't think they can compete for a division title. I don't think more than one of those teams can fall behind the Marlins this year, but I think the Marlins are good enough that, like, if either the Braves or Mets bottom out, fourth place is realistic. Like, the Marlins can jump them. And I'll tell you why. I think I'll give the Marlins this. I think Peter Bendix, like, they've hired a young, smart guy who's picked a direction for the organization here. They're very clearly trying to build a young core that they can, that once it proves it, hopefully they'll build around them, hopefully being a key word there. But we've seen it already with some of these guys. I want to start with Kyle Stowers, right? 288 with 25 homers in just 117 games last year. Like, Mike, there's a non-zero chance that Kyle Stowers is Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
Like, he might be that good based on what we've already seen.
Very easily could be, without a doubt.
And like, you think about some of these other guys, like Agustin Ramirez, Jacob Marcy, Xavier Edwards, Griffin Conine, like Otto Lopez has been really solid. Like, there's a lot to be hopeful with here on offense. Now, all of these names that I mentioned are young, and all of these names that I mentioned, like, we still don't know it yet. But like, if, like, here, I'm going to give you 6 names here. Okay. Marcy, Edwards. I think Stowers was already hit. So I'll go Marcy, Edwards, Ramirez, Conine, Lopez, and Casey. Those 6 guys. If 3 of those guys take the next step this year, this is a pretty good lineup.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, right?
It's definitely serviceable, without a doubt.
Yeah. And so again, then it goes over the pitching. Well, I think between Yuri Perez, Max Meyer, Braxton Garrett, like Sandy Alcantara, we've obviously seen it, Sandy Alcantara be the best pitcher in baseball at one point, right? I'm not expecting him to return to that, but like, if he can take a step back forward, which I know he's motivated to do, I think Ryan Gusto was a pretty solid sneaky get for them from Houston. There's some stuff to like here. And I also want to talk about, like, from an off-season perspective, I'm giving them like a C+, but you could make an argument that grade could be higher. Like, they got really solid value back on Ryan Weathers and Edward Cabrera. Like, getting Owen Casey and 2 top 50 prospects in baseball, that really, like, helps this rebuild. And it's not like the Marlins were bad last year, Mike. They won 79 games. Suggesting that they can win 85 is not crazy.
It's not crazy.
So
not crazy.
I'm very interested to see who the Marlins are this year, and even more so if they show signs of growth. I really want to see them add to it and try to build something that can compete in 2027.
Yeah. It does kind of seem a little bit like a turn the corner year.
Yeah.
Right? I really do believe that. And this is not like, listen, the Phillies are getting older, right? Like, the Phillies are getting old. The Braves are one more bad year from maybe blowing that whole thing up.
Yeah.
Like, really. So the window could open for Miami. It really could. Again, I'm curious to see how long they hang on to some of their pitching. Like, I'm curious to see if Sandy Alcantara is like the last piece that they move just to kind of, again, further retool. And again, we'll see if that happens. But that is a young Studley lineup that could turn into something. And it's going to be exciting. They're going to play spoiler for somebody, right? They played spoiler for the Mets last year. It would not surprise me if they were that same team again. Let's talk about the Washington Nationals. Again, this is, I would bet dollars to donuts that this is the last place team in this division, and this is a bottom 5 team in baseball. Like, I would go as pretty far to say that. I think that there's some names in that lineup that you can make the case for as, like, they're exciting to kind of watch come up, right? Like obviously James Wood is somebody that a lot of people have high expectations for. CJ Abrams obviously is somebody that that they like. He could also be moved at some point too. There were a lot of rumors about that as well. Dylan Cruz, obviously spending a top pick on him. This rotation is god awful. Oh my, it's bad. So, I mean, obviously we can't expect much, but what can we expect here from the Nationals?
Yeah, I mean, ceiling 70 wins, floor 50 wins. Like they're not going to be any good. I think there are a couple things to watch with them with regards to like what direction their rebuild goes. I think James Wood is already on the precipice of being a legitimate star.
Yeah.
And so then the question becomes kind of like we talked about with Caminero with the Rays. The question becomes like, okay, well, how quickly can you turn this into a contender to make him being a young star worth it for your organization? Or like they're probably going to do with CJ Abrams, like, do you just flip him at some point and try to cash in on, hey, like it's not very often that this talented of a young outfielder's on the market, and see what you can get and really try to boost your rebuild and get even younger. Mm-hmm. Dylan Cruz is a really interesting factor here. Like obviously expectations for him offensively coming out of college at LSU were through the roof. They really fast tracked him through the organization. Like, is he ready? Or did they bring him up too fast? Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. Like it's a little bit like the Marlins where it's a really young lineup, but like it's just so much less proven talent here.
Yeah.
And Mike, that rotation, oh my goodness,
it's
man.
Brutally bad.
I mean, you traded away Mackenzie Gore. I get it. If you're going to do that, you might as well trade away CJ Abrams ASAP as well. Like, I totally understand that they're just picking a direction, but Miles Michaelis,
I knew
you were going to start opening day. Like, it's rough, man. So yeah, I mean, when I look around the National League, I think it's them, the Rockies, and the Cardinals are the three like consensus worst teams in
the bottom, the real bottom feeders. Yeah, no, I agree. It is those three teams in the National League without a doubt. Yeah, that's a brutal rotation. It really is. That is brutal. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just like they're prospect watching right now. I think it's just one of those years. So okay. Really quick. So if I'm going to put you on the spot here, gun to your head. And again, we'll break this down once we do like the awards stuff, playoff stuff. We'll really kind of break down like the winners of divisions and stuff like that more in depth.
But Mike, I already wrote down how I as we've been talking, I wrote down my standings in each division. So I'm ready.
So who's winning the AL East? Who's winning the NL East right now? Gun to your head.
Yeah, my AL East standings, gun to my head. Toronto wins the division. Yankees in second, Boston in third, Baltimore in fourth, Tampa in fifth.
Okay.
NL East, gun to my head. Philly in first, Atlanta in second, Mets in third, Miami in fourth, although I really think Miami might sneak ahead of one of them, and Washington in a distant fifth.
Listen, if you're if you're saying that you think Miami's going to sneak ahead of one of them, but you have Atlanta ahead of the Mets, does that mean the hands go up and like he's not saying anything, but you know the possibilities?
I mean, look, I think we talked about it with the Mets. Like, if they stay healthy and the guys they brought in on offense play more to their ceiling than to their floor, they're going to be really good. But like, they're a high variance operation for me this year. They really are. We'll see.
So, and here's the other thing: are the Yankees like losing to the Blue Jays by like a game in the division, or is it like a 5-game spread here?
This is one where, like, if you ask me to, like, if I'm creating like a pie chart of outcomes of who wins the AL East, like, I'm probably going, let's say 40% Toronto, 38% Yankees, like 15% Boston, the last like 7% Baltimore. Like, I really could see that division going different ways. I think I give Toronto a slight edge over the Yankees just because, like, you and I both had to watch our teams deal with that Toronto offense in the playoffs last
Yeah,
year.
jeez.
Like, if this is like actually what that offensive culture is going forward, like, that's going to be a really tough team to deal with. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, listen, that is something we certainly will see. Is the AL East the most interesting division in baseball this year? I think it really might be.
I mean, I think the two East divisions in general are like the deepest this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's why we wanted to start with these, right? Because they're both really deep. There's a lot of variance in both of these divisions. Like, I mean, if you ask me today who I think wins them, I think it's Philly, and then I think it's Toronto and the Yankees right there.
Mm-hmm.
But like, Mike, I wouldn't be that shocked if it ended up being Boston and the Mets. That wouldn't shock me, and that's what makes these divisions interesting.
Yeah, certainly. Well, listen, it was a good first show back, previewing the East divisions, and it's great to have some of our loyal listeners back as well. Tristan Reyes, anti-Mets agenda, and that is something that is undeniably true on this show. So, Tristan, it's good to see you again. It's great to have you back commenting for us. But as for Dalton Brown, I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast, exclusively here on the Grid Network. Oh, listen, it might be too early to say, but do you have like some crazy future for Hot Corner or something?
I was hoping you would ask. If you were going to sign off the show without it, I was going to be like, oh, okay, sure.
You're going to be like, wait. Yep, go ahead.
I got a whole home run unders document. I'm just going to read it, okay? Like, if people who know me know that I hit these home run bet unders, I'm at like 70% on them the last 4 years running.
Yeah.
I won the biggest bet of my life a few years ago in Byron Buxton over 30.5 home runs.
I remember.
So every year I pick 5 to 7 players and I bet they're under. The reason I only look at unders is because injury risk is a one-sided thing. It's an asymmetric risk. You should never bet an over on a season-long player prop ever, ever, ever. Cannot stress that enough. But just going to run through these real quick, Mike. You might not like the first one.
Okay. Oh, God. Here we go.
Ben Rice, under 26.5 home runs. Ben Rice's career high came last season, his first full big league season with the Yankees. He finished with 26 home runs in 138 games. I'm willing to challenge him to topple his career high, especially given that the Yankees re-signed Paul Goldschmidt, presumably to play against some left-handed pitching. Ben Rice last season was 189, 683 slash line against lefties. Excuse me, that's for his career. If he's healthy, I think he'll start a similar number of games. He'll need to get to a new career high in homers. That's a risk I will consistently take in futures betting without question when you add in the fact that he might get hurt, just like anybody else. Yeah. Bobby Witt, under 30.5 home runs at FanDuel. Bobby Witt Jr. healthy the last 3 seasons. He has hit 30, 32, which is his career high, and 23 homers. 3 fully healthy seasons. He's only gone over this number in 1 of those 3 seasons. It's a fair question as to whether he actually will be healthy this season. I think he's 45% to eclipse this number if fully healthy, meaning this is already a good bet. That also leaves almost no room for error if he does have an injury. No doubt, Bobby Witt under 30.5 homers. Fernando Tatis Jr., under 26.5 home runs. He has gone over this number only once in his career when he hit 42 home runs in 2021. And sure, maybe he goes off like that again. He was healthy for 155 games last year, though, Mike, and he finished with 25 homers. That was also a season which marked the first fully healthy season of his career. The norm with him is not to play a full season. He's dealt with multiple injuries already, and it wouldn't surprise me if he deals with another one at some point. Never rooting for an injury, but you have to factor it in. You add in the fact that this Padres team should be slightly worse across the board. Machado and Bogarts are not getting younger around him as protection. He might not see as many pitches to hit. Going over 26.5 to me, not a great proposition. I'm taking the under. We got 3 more, Mike. Bear with me. Ketel Marte, under 28.5 home runs. He has eclipsed this number just once in 5 seasons since COVID and just twice in his 11-year career. This is his age 33 season. Rumors of strained relationships between him and the organization and teammates are a minor concern productivity-wise. He has played fewer than 140 games in 8 of 11 seasons as a big leaguer. He is capable of going over this number, but a lot more will need to go right for him than usually does. 2 more, Mike. O'Neal Cruz, under 20 and a half home runs. We played this last year at 21 and a half. We won that bet. He finished with 20. His career high is still 21, meaning he would have to match a career high to go over this number. He continues to be virtually unplayable against left-handed pitching. He batted 102 against lefties in 2025.
Wow.
And Pittsburgh has a lot better options around him offensively this year than they've had in the past. He is 6'7". He's dealt with plenty of injuries already. He is always a candidate to deal with injury, and he cannot play center field defensively worth a lick. They might not be able to get him on the field as much as they want. We're going back to the well with O'Neal Cruz under 20 and a half home runs. Final name on this list, Wyatt Langford of the Texas Rangers, under 23 and a half home runs. Again, great player, totally capable of smashing this number. But he has played exactly 134 games in each of his big league seasons, and he has put up 19 home runs and 22 home runs. This would require a career high. I will always fade a guy getting to their career high. He's dealt with oblique injuries. I have concerns about him as a prospect. This is a guy who went from 7th in Rookie of the Year voting in 2024 and then saw his strikeout total for the season increase from 115 to 151 in the same number of games. He also saw his average drop by 12 points. I don't have a belief right now that him going over 23 and a half is the most likely result, even if he does stay healthy. And then, of course, there's the factor of injury. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys right there. If you bet all those unders, I feel extremely confident we will hit at least 4 of them. Thank you.
Round of applause. Round of applause. I love, by the way, the bear with me's kind of in the middle, just to make sure I don't get bored or something. That was really great. Really good. One of the things that we said we were going to do it last year and we didn't do it. Okay. One of the things we are doing this year is we are tracking the success rate of Dalton's hot corner.
We will
have a number. Okay. We will have a number. So, all right. Anything else to add, bud?
No, because the sports books haven't put up strikeout numbers or RBI numbers or the other counting stats that I want to bet unders on. So there's more to come, but sports books got to put those things up for me.
They will, and we will have it for you. Again, that's Dalton Brown. I'm Mike Guido. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast, exclusively on the Grid Network. We'll see you next week.